Tim McVeigh was honorably discharged from the Army 3 years before the bombing, leaving behind an exemplary service record. After a brief but intense combat experience in the Persian Gulf War, McVeigh tried out for the Special Forces. He pronounced himself unable to continue just a few days into the testing and returned to his unit demoralized and, some say, a changed man.
Through being able to see Timothy McVeigh's letters to his defense team, this is really behind-the-scenes stuff, letters to his family, the memos that the defense team writes, which detail his mood from day to day, some of the medical reports while he's in prison, which detail his thoughts. On the one hand, you have the McVeigh who's mad at the government. On the other hand, you have the McVeigh who works for the government. The defense team themselves could never obtain his full military records, and that even though they were ordered by a judge.
Where does he turn up? He turns up in Buffalo, New York. And while he's up there, he creates what's known as a legend. Now, legend is when you go undercover or you get sheep dipped. Sheep dipped means you change your identity, you change who you work for, and become a new person. He changes his personality up there, and all of a sudden he's ranting and raving about the Turner Diaries and overthrowing the government and all this other nonsense to where they're going. This guy's a wacko. He works up there 6 months and disappears. Where do we find him again? Going into militia meetings and doing the same thing, making sure he's noticed.
If you look at Lee Harvey Oswald and Tim McVeigh and other patsies, they're very similar. They're in the military, they've got security clearances.
McVeigh wrote a letter to his sister, who turned it over to the FBI, in which he admits that he was selected out of Special Forces training to participate in covert operations, to help run drugs to fund these operations, and to assassinate security risks. Mere bravado, or was McVeigh telling the truth?
The FBI had put wiretaps on the McVeigh family's phone after the bombing. And so I'm reading this conversation back and forth between his mother and his sister. There's actually a few of these conversations where they say, "We don't understand why the FBI won't listen to us and why the media is reporting that Timothy McVeigh washed out or dropped out of Special Forces." They're saying, no, we were told that he was still active in the military and that he was working on these covert missions.
And he told his family, he told many others, Terry Nichols has signed an affidavit, that McVeigh believed he was out there infiltrating militias and right-wing groups and was preparing to set them up. And then, of course, he later learned that he was the guy that got set up.
If McVeigh was working for the government, what are we to make of the involvement of Terry Nichols, the only convicted accomplice?
When Nichols had been convicted, but not given the death penalty, in federal court and in state court, he could not be tried again. He wrote to then Attorney General Ashcroft and said, "Come and see me. Come and see me and I'll tell you all about it."
In his declaration, Nichols stated that crucial parts of this terrorist attack remain hidden from the American people, especially the identities of others unknown who collaborated with McVeigh in the bombing. McVeigh told Nichols that he had been recruited to perform undercover missions while in the U.S. Army. Always the good soldier, McVeigh revealed only one name in his chain of command, Larry Potts, Assistant Director of the FBI and the lead agent on the Ruby Ridge catastrophe in 1992, in which a U.S. Marshal and 14-year-old Sam Weaver and his mother Vicki Weaver were killed. Larry Potts later played an active role in the siege at Waco. McVeigh was angry at Potts for going off script and changing targets at the last minute. Another telling clue is on Tim McVeigh's death certificate. Despite being officially out of the military for 9 years and having held many different jobs since then, his listed occupation was U.S. Army. So why did Tim McVeigh take the fall for his accomplices? Perhaps the intervention of a known psychological warfare expert explains his silence till the end.
The record clearly shows that Dr. Jolyon West consulted Timothy McVeigh's defense team. Dr. West had previously been a psychiatrist and consulted for Patty Hearst, Saran, and Jack Ruby.
We know that Jolyon West was considered to be the #2 mind control expert in North America under only Dr. Ewing Cameron.
Dr. West came under a lot of scrutiny during his time as chief of psychiatry at UCLA because he was proposing using prisoners, the general community, poor people, minorities as test subjects. And then West's career continues to flourish through the 80s, and he continues his research into hypnosis, branches out into terrorism and cults, even consulting and later writing about the Waco massacre.
Dr. John Smith, that's even his real name, was the protege of Dr. Jolyon West, Mr. Mind Control, and he was McVeigh's doctor in prison. Today it's reported that he is one of the head psychiatrists, one of the head doctors at Guantanamo Bay. The fact that you've got the protege of one of the fathers of modern mind control now being the head of psychiatry at Guantanamo Bay, which is an admitted mind control laboratory, that's even mainstream news. I mean, you couldn't make this up in a spy novel. Truth is always stranger than fiction, and it's all hidden in plain view.